What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Classic Octane. I am Taylor. So today I want to put together a quick video, kind of overview of this CB500 project that I'm just about finished with. The M unit install on this is, I would say, 80% of the same install I did on that previous video. If you guys haven't seen that video, maybe a week or two ago, I put out a step-by-step wiring and M unit for a classic Honda, including how to wire the voltage regulator rectifier, starter solenoids, and on that build, I use the factory switches. The big difference here is now we are utilizing 5 momentary switches to control the entire bike. And I want to walk you guys through that really quick, just because it is a little bit different than what was done on the previous install. And I also want to show you guys these awesome little turn signals I found, because they are the best ones on the market as far as what I've used. So I want to show those off a little bit too. So everything here in the electronics box is pretty much identical to the last setup, so I'm not going to bore you guys with walking through all of that. The overview is lithium-ion battery, voltage regulator rectifier, starter relay, of course the M unit itself, and then we have a few of those WAGO lever nuts that are acting as a common ground point, as well as a key on source for us to be able to get a good 12-volt source for the voltage regulator, as well as actually telling the M unit to turn on. Everything else is just inputs and outputs, and then of course our main fuse. All of that runs through this main wiring harness. I'm still in the process of cleaning all this up and taping it and making it look nice and clean. Nothing changed at all from our ignition switch or our coils. That's all wired identical to the last video. The big differences are up here on the handlebars. So we have these momentary switches. They're from a company called Motone, M-O-T-O-N-E. I'll throw a link to these in the description as well. Momentary switches just mean when you push the button down, it makes a connection. When you let off, it stops. So it doesn't click down and stay on, and then, it's not a switch like that. It's momentary. So it's only making that connection when you're pushing it down, which is perfect for an M unit. I'll walk you guys through the actual functionality here in just a minute, but we have 3 buttons on the left side, 2 buttons on the right side, and that allows us to have full functionality of all of the electronics on the bike with just those switches. Up top, we are running a mini speedo and tack with our indicator lights. Of course, all of those are working as well. Up here in the headlight, it's pretty similar to the last setup, with just a few minor changes. Basically, I'm running 3 of those lever nuts. If you're not familiar with what those are, it's a little piece just like this. Each one of these orange parts, see if I can do this with one hand, flips up. You can tuck a wire right down in there, flip it closed, and then that holds it nice and tight and connects all of these wires together. So I'm using 3 of those. The central one I'm using as a good, just common ground point, because most of these wires are actually ground wires, because the M unit is ground controlled, which means it's looking for a ground signal on the input side of the M unit to turn that output on. So I needed a nice clean ground for every button. I also needed a clean ground for the switch for our brake light, our ground for our backlights and our gauges, and then also a couple of the indicator lights, the turn signal and the high beam indicator light also need to be grounded. The headlight itself, so you can see as I go on and on, a lot of ground going on here. So we have a nice clean place to run all of those wires. I'm also running another lever nut for our key on power. That allows me to run the power side of our low oil pressure light as well as our neutral light. And then I have another 3rd lever nut that is only power when the headlight is on. So that turns on the headlight. It also runs the backlight for both of our gauges as well. So the backlight's only on when the headlight is on. And then if you switch between high and low beam, it stays on as well, because of course we want the backlight and our gauges to stay on regardless of if we're in high or low beam. Everything else in here is exactly like you would expect to find on any M unit install. It's just a lot of inputs and outputs. I won't run through them all individually because they're all in that last video. So again, I encourage you guys to go and watch that should you want to learn how to wire up your neutral light or your high beam indicator, or utilize one of my diodes to be able to use your single turn signal indicator regardless of if you're using the left or right side turn signals. Let me talk you guys through these momentary switches that we're actually controlling everything with. I ran the wires for the momentary switches through the handlebars to keep it nice and clean. So again, we have 5 total buttons. The 3 on the left side, left turn signal, right turn signal. The bottom is the horn. On the right side of the bike, the top is our headlight, so it does both high beam and low beam. The bottom is our start and kill button. So to show you guys how it works, one click on. This turns the bike on, but the only systems that are on in the bike right now are our ignition coils, are set to be hot as soon as we turn the key on. And then we also have our low oil pressure light, and then I don't have the bike in neutral right now. Boom, there you go. And there's our neutral light. So nothing else on the bike is on right now. If I wanted to go with left turn signals, just click that button once, and then we have our nice bright turn signal on the front, nice and bright on the back as well. And to turn them off, you just click it again. Same goes for the right side turn signal. Just one quick click. The front one, I don't know if you can see it, but it's flashing up there. To turn it off, we just click it down again. So you can actually set in the M unit settings for that to be based on a certain amount of time. You can, have it set to do lane switching. So if you just click it once real quick, it will flash the lights like 3 or 4 times and then turn off automatically. And if you click and hold it, it'll stay on for longer. So there's a lot of customization you can do. Bottom button is the horn. I'm not gonna blow your eardrums out by showing you that. On the right side of the bike, we have both the headlight and the start kill switch. So this is a really cool function that the M unit has that allows you to do, all the different on, off, high and low beam with one button. So if we just click it once, that turns on our headlight. That also turns on our tail light, as well as our backlight for our gauges. Now, if I quickly press it, it'll flash the high beam. So if you're, going to flash to pass, I think is what they call that. If you want to flash somebody to let them know, hey, go ahead and, turn in front of me, I see you, whatever it is, you can just quickly press it. If you click and hold it down for just a second, it'll permanently turn on the high beam. We should also have our high beam indicator light on. Backlights are still on, tail lights are still on. Click it again, it goes back to low beam. If you want to turn off the headlight, you just click and hold, turns the system off. So that's how you get all of that functionality of just one switch. The switch below it is our start button. So if I hit the button right now, the engine will turn over real quick. Almost fired up too. And that'll just fire up. It works just like a traditional start button would. Once the engine is running, to turn it off, you double click that button and it will kill the power to the coils, which will kill the engine. So that's how it's both a start and a kill switch. Is right now when the key's on and the bike is not running, it acts just like a normal starter button would. Engine running, double click, it'll kill the power to the ignition coils and act as a kill switch. And the very last piece of the puzzle is just our brake light switch, which in this case is built into the master cylinder. So when I pull the lever, we get brake lights on both sides. I will also be adding a rear brake light switch just in the traditional location, but we didn't have one in stock, so I need to go ahead and order that one, but it'll work exactly the same way as a factory light would. So you guys see how bright these turn signals are, despite them being tiny. I mean, like, it's literally smaller than my pinky nail, and that's how small they are, but yet how bright they are. So I really love these. So these are from a company called Kellerman, I believe is how you pronounce it. Here's one of the boxes. So Kellerman, and it's the Auto, ATTO. So the ones on the rear, as you see, are both turn signals and brake and tail light. So 3 functions out of one tiny, tiny bullet. And then the front is just amber. So there's a couple of options when you buy these. You have amber with brake, turn, and tail. And then they also make them in chrome or satin black. And since this bike is all blacked out, we went with satin on this one. So I'll throw a link to these in the description as well. This is not at all sponsored or anything by them. I've just been on the search for a really good quality turn signal. And the fact that these also do brake and tail light as well. Just gives you the opportunity to have a super clean look. I mean, they just like completely disappear on the back of the bike, but they're still bright enough to be very safe, which is obviously very important as well. That's it for this one. I just wanted to give you a down and dirty overview of this M unit install. If you have any questions or anything about this, please do let me know. I am going to throw a link in the description to all of these parts. Revival is who I get all my M unit stuff from. They actually carry these turn signals as well as these Momentary switches. So I'll just link to their site for all of these parts and pieces, and you guys can go through and check them all out. Again, let me know if you have any questions. You guys will see this bike probably one more time when it's completely done. I need to paint the tank, paint the front fender, kind of finish up the rest of the bike, which should happen in the next week or so. And then I'll do a complete overview of this build so you guys can kind of see it all finished. So I appreciate you guys tuning in as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.